we seem disproportionately good at home and we seem disproportionately bad away. And the thing that's common in both of those is the amount of travel that has to be done. Teams coming to us and us going away. Because, yes, I sort of think to pin everything on psychology, I certainly think that's a part of it. And I think that what I'm going to come to also plays into the psychology. But there would be other teams having awful runs if it was, this would be a pretty unique psychological flaw through several managers with several different leadership teams in the dressing room, etc., for this to be, the main cause. Is it possible that there's something about the way the club, and it might not be fixable, the club is limited by its resources, etc., etc., but is you think perhaps something in the distances that have to be travelled and the way that's travelled that perhaps has an impact on the way the players can perform away? And then, going back to that Michael Cooper comment about the lads, it's a slog going away. Therefore, does that have an impact on the psychology, which then snowballs with that travel issue? We saw the images for the Watford game where everyone was, Jordan Houghton and others stood on the train, and we sort of laugh about that. It doesn't happen on a regular, but is there something there that maybe has the same way that people, they can fly down to Exeter, but they've still got to get the coach down, and it's a long old slog for everyone coming, that it affects them the same way reciprocally? That to me seems to sort of line up more with the facts of the matter. Or do you feel there's something else? Do you think it's the psychology? Do you think it's a mix of the two? Do you think there's things that are just we're not privy to going on?
Well, one thing I would say is I don't particularly have much sympathy with Michael Cooper in that comment, and that's not because he's not a Plymouth Argyle player anymore. It's just because if you pay for Plymouth Argyle, you're going to have to travel. So if you don't feel like you can do it, don't do it. I know it's a very easy thing to say.
He didn't do it, Finn. He left.
Oh, yeah, quite, yeah. So we're basically saying, what he's basically saying there is like, it's difficult. So we're never going to be in the best shape to play away from home, which then, as a player, you're limiting how well your team can do over long periods of time. And I think they've got to look, they have to, because it's upon multiple managers now. The players probably have to look within themselves if that's how the way that they feel, but also get someone to help them with that. Because I'm not being funny. I'm sounding a bit like Roy Keane here, but it is part of their job. And especially if you pay for Plymouth Argyle, you have to accept that is going to be the case. Is there any point us putting any effort into that? If that's genuinely the way that some players feel, it's like somebody there, whether it's Joe Edwards, whether it's a psychologist that comes in, or whatever, somebody there has to step up and take responsibility. And I'm not expecting us to go away and win loads of games because we're Plymouth Argyle in this championship. Like, we've got to be realistic about where we are, what size of club we are, and the fact that we've just been promoted back to it. However, we can't play this badly away from home all the time. And yeah, we didn't do it against West Brom, and we didn't play this bad against Burnley. So you got that, but we've got to find ways of being able to dig in away from home. And sometimes that goes beyond system. So yeah, I do think it's more of a psychological issue. But like I said, I don't really have much sympathy with that comment, because it's like, I'm sure it would be hard for us if we were players and we had to travel up and do it. But you play for Plymouth Argyle, so you have to do that. And everybody in history's had to do that. And in fact, we've had plenty of teams that are good away from home.
Yeah, we had like the Derek Adams. We were better away than we were at home for a lot of it, which was just kind of feels remarkable. And I don't think we were ever like that. But
anyway, what I'm saying is, I don't think that's much of an excuse.
I would agree. It may be a reality, but it's not a good reason for it to be a reality. And the other thing I would say is, I think it's probably not a coincidence that the 3 red cards we've had, player-wise, I know that Rooney, as the coach, was at home. The 3 red cards we had have all been away from home. And I just think that all plays into it, Like I say, it's discipline, malaise, psychological sort of disgruntledness, frustration, all ties into it. Because Sissoko yesterday, and I know, we don't want to turn this all too much into slagging off one player, but he will not be proud of himself this morning. He will not be proud of himself at all, the way he responded. And there's got to be a tie-in, I think, with that level of head loss from him as an individual, and from the collective head loss we saw from the team yesterday. And that's
They were just shrugging. They were like this after the second goal. They were literally shrugging at each other. They were like, "Well, like you know, from Joe Edwards to Morgan Whitaker, they were all looking at each other. It's like, what's going on?"
Adam, you're a very handsome ornament in the bottom corner, but you've not been able to get a word in edgeways for about 15 minutes. Did you want to have a say on our away form, possible causes, possible remedies, or are you just have you zoned out as much as I have listening to these?
No, I mean it probably helps that I've agreed with a lot of what's being said, so haven't needed to jump in and argue. I think it's obvious that there is a psychological element there, and I think it's obvious that there is a travel element there. I think they'd perhaps explain some small differences in what we see from a home and away from. I don't think they go far enough to explain the gaping chasm that we've seen, and it's possibly just the nature of where we are in this league that is causing a significant issue. I had a quick look earlier at last season and saw that across that time we've got 69% of our points at home. That only Birmingham and Rotherham won more points at home, and they were both relegated. It could well be that teams at this level need to have a significant home form in order to survive, and those that don't do very well away from home end up dropping off. One thing I will say is, if you take out the Ian Foster era, which I think we'd all love to do, that ultimately. He won, I think it was 8 points, maybe 7 away and 4 at home. You take that out, it's 79 points that we've won at home. It's clearly
he actually won 9 away, Adam, because it was the 2 wins, and then it was 8, because it was a draw at Huddersfield and a draw at Blackburn. Sorry, you are right.
That's okay though. I'm glad to have that confirmed by someone who knows. So that's great.
You've got to stop making me laugh. I can't take it, Adam.
Sorry, yeah.
I don't know. It's but either way, it shows that. I mean, look, that's laid bare. The statistical evidence, it's tougher to say than I'd like to hope, was there in the sense that the 3 teams that won a bigger proportion, or the biggest proportion of points at home last season, were the 3 teams that finished from 21st and below. So it goes a long way, and I don't necessarily buy that it's always been an issue. We've had some shockers over the years, don't get me wrong. That's always been the case, I think, that every now and then we just do not show up at all, as was the case yesterday, as was the case a few times. But in that promotion-winning season, the 101.1, where we were absolutely electric at home, that still accounted for only 60% of our total points that season. Whereas as we got to the Championship, that issue's got worse and worse. It's something about this level, and it's something about the way that we travel. And I agree that I think the long travel is an element, as I agree that I think the long travel down at home makes us a little better in front of our own fans. There's clearly more than that, and there's clearly some sort of psychological basis on this team, and particularly since we've got to this level, it almost feels like the travel may tire us out a little bit, and there's almost a sense that since we've got to the Championship, there's a few players who kind of, maybe it's a bit of imposter syndrome, maybe it's a case of thinking we're a League One team battling here, we kind of don't belong at this level, and anything we get here is a bonus, when of course we do belong at this level. We've earned the right to be at this level, and we need to play like we deserve to be at this level. I kind of feel like there's a situation where as the players kind of feel too sorry for themselves very quickly, going 1-0 down away from home and go, oh, well, it's us away in the Championship. We're always likely to get beat, never mind. It's just going to be one of those days. Whereas at home, we don't have that, because we've got it in our psyche and in the players' minds that we can beat anybody at home. And so it's proved. So I think, as I say, I don't disagree with what anybody has said so far, which is kind of is nice. But I kind of feel like it's a combination of all those factors. I think when you add the travel to the psychology, add that into the fact that we are in a situation where I do feel like we're feeling sorry for ourselves away from home. We're not necessarily getting too concerned when we fall behind, and it can lead to some shockers. Put that all into the melting pot, and you get records like ours, where we can be fantastic and we can be dreadful. It just so happens that our fantastic games are at home, and our terrible games are the ones away from home. And I think everything plays a role. I think you're right, Ben, in the sense that the fact that we're so far away contributes to that. But if that was the case, you'd see similar with teams like Sunderland. You'd see similar with teams like Exeter, where they always perform at home and don't perform away from it. It's not really the case that we see that. I think it's a factor unique to us because obviously we're further away from many teams than Sunderland and even Exeter are. But I think there's definitely a psychological element there. It's an unavoidable psychological element. I think it is probably based in that fact of since we've been in the Championship, there's a few too many who feel like we're going away from home. Anything we get is a bonus. There's not enough. We're going away from home and we should win this game. And when that does happen, we see performances like we did at Rotherham, where we went there feeling like we should win the game because Rotherham are terrible. And we did win the game. And we should have won it by more than we did. I think we need... Yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, I would say that I think we should feel like we should go away to Cardiff. I mean, they're bottom of the league.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah, we're on the same page there for sure. I think that as soon as we went 1-0 down yesterday, there was kind of a feeling of, oh yeah, this is a Championship away game. Oh well, we're going to kind of fall apart now. Whereas for the first 15 minutes when we were in the game, I think we played some genuine stuff, and it's kind of like, yeah, this is the sort of performance we should put in. So yeah, I think the reason I was that lovely looking or otherwise ornament for a little while is because I've looked at all those points and go, yeah, you're right. There's a travel factor, there's a psychology factor, and I think there's a little bit of imposter syndrome factor through a few of our players as well. How do you fix that? Well, spend a bit more money on travel, perhaps, so you're not standing up on a train would be a start. But I think maybe I look at it and go, this is ripe territory for a sports psychologist to come in and offer what they can in a similar way than actually we're ripe territory for a set piece coach to come out. I know that's a completely separate issue, but I think those are two positions that if we brought another body in to fill, we'd look a lot better in a lot of the elements of what we do. And away travel is, I think we'd all say, number one on the list of what needs to improve.
Yeah, because it's getting a little bit beyond a joke. I know the Green Army love to be known for their loyalty and the many miles they travel. It's almost like a badge of honor, the suffering that they go through. But it's getting a little bit beyond a joke now, isn't it? For many.